Have you ever wondered why some leaders command loyalty without demanding it, while others, though loud and forceful, find their authority crumble like sand between their fingers? There are hidden laws that govern the soul of leadership, laws not written in constitutions nor carved into monuments, but inscribed deep within the architecture of human nature itself. These are the unseen rhythms of justice, the secret pulse of power when it is rightly held, and the ruin when it is abused. Plato saw it clearly. Power is never truly about domination, but about harmony. Just as the soul is ordered by reason guiding spirit and appetite, so too a society thrives when wisdom commands ambition and desire. Yet how often do rulers invert this order, placing appetite at the throne, letting hunger for wealth, prestige, or survival dictate their choices? In such times, the people feel the imbalance instinctively. They may not name it, but they sense the falseness. A leader's voice can be gilded with speeches, yet the echo of injustice still rings hollow. The first hidden law whispers that a leader must first govern himself. Without inner mastery, the outer command becomes a hollow performance. For what is charisma without discipline, or vision without restraint? Seneca once warned that no man is free who is enslaved to his passions. And here lies the paradox. If you cannot rule yourself, you will try to rule others more harshly. You will mistake control for order and tyranny for strength. But the people know. Their hearts revolt long before their bodies do. They turn their faces away from the leader who has no anchor within. Imagine, then, the figure of the philosopher-king, not merely as Plato's ideal, but as an archetype of timeless psychology. He is not born to rule by blood, nor thrust into power by inheritance. He rises because he has wrestled with himself. He has stared into the chaos of desire and subdued it. His crown is invisible long before it is visible, for he wears the laurel of inner victory. Contrast this with the demagogue, who shouts of freedom while bound in chains of greed, who seduces crowds with promises he cannot even whisper to his own soul without trembling. Which leader, ask yourself, will endure when the storms strike? There is another law, subtle and often ignored. A just leader must see further than the present. He is not merely a manager of crises or an improviser of short-term gains. He is a steward of generations. Marcus Aurelius wrote as though he were speaking across centuries, his meditations shaped not for his immediate court, but for those unseen eyes that would one day read them. Leadership that bends only to the moment may win applause but forfeits legacy. Leadership that plants oaks instead of grass, foundations instead of decorations, may walk alone in its lifetime, yet stand immortal after death. But here is the tension. Citizens, too, are restless. They clamor for immediacy, for bread today rather than harvest tomorrow. They are not wrong. Life presses its urgent needs. Yet the wise leader listens not only to their cries, but to the silence between them. In that silence lies the truth of what sustains, what lifts, what endures. To govern only by what is loud is to steer by thunder, but to govern also by what is quiet is to steer by stars. Which do you follow? Which would you want your leaders to follow? The third law reveals itself here. Justice cannot be performed as a spectacle. It is not theater, though many try to dress it as such. The true measure of justice is found in the shadows, in decisions unseen by the crowd, in sacrifices unadvertised. When a leader chooses fairness, not because it will polish his reputation, but because it aligns with the eternal order, he participates in the divine. This is the sacred weight of leadership, not popularity, not manipulation, but fidelity to truth itself. But fidelity costs. To uphold what is right often means standing against the tide of the easy, the profitable, the popular. Epictetus spoke of freedom as the power to say no to false desires. A leader's freedom, then, is measured not by how many obey him, but by how many temptations he refuses. And here lies the hidden fire of authority. When the people see a leader who bends not for gain, who resists corruption, even when no eyes are watching, they are drawn with a loyalty fiercer than fear. For deep in every citizen's heart is a longing for a shepherd who does not exploit, for a guardian who protects even when no reward awaits. So ask yourself, if you were handed power tomorrow, what would rise within you? Would your appetites feast upon it, or would your spirit guide it? Would you seek to be seen as just, or would you labor in silence to be truly just? Do you crave the crown for its gold, or for the invisible burden it represents? This is the question every leader faces, and every citizen should demand of those who seek to rule.
Every leader who has endured through time carries with him the weight of the fourth hidden law. Authority is not possessed, it is bestowed. No one, however mighty, can truly seize legitimacy. It is breathed into them by the people, recognized like an aura that cannot be counterfeited. History is littered with figures who clutched thrones with iron fists, who demanded loyalty and carved obedience into law. Yet when their hour passed, their names dissolved into dust, remembered with bitterness rather than reverence. Contrast them with those who ruled by service, whose humility forged invisible chains stronger than armies. Their memory lingers not because they commanded, but because they served. Plato's philosopher-king was never meant to be a monarch in the crude sense, but a symbol, a leader who does not lust after power, yet is trusted with it because he alone can bear its weight. This paradox, seeking nothing, yet being given everything, is one of the greatest mysteries of leadership. The demagogue chases applause, the philosopher-king attracts silence, and in that silence, the people rest secure, for they know his rule does not spring from ambition, but from alignment with justice itself. The fifth law moves even deeper. The soul of leadership is bound to truth, even when truth wounds. Most citizens crave comfort, and most rulers oblige by offering illusions. But illusions, like narcotics, demand higher doses until reality strikes back with vengeance. A just leader understands that falsehood is poison, no matter how sweet it tastes. He risks being hated today for telling the truth, rather than being cursed tomorrow for having concealed it. Here lies the highest courage, not facing enemies abroad, but facing the fury of one's own people with honesty. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." A just leader lives by this maxim, even when the crowd grows restless. But truth has another face. It demands transparency within the self. Leaders often deceive themselves before they deceive the people. They cloak selfish motives in noble words, convincing themselves of their righteousness. Yet the unconscious is a mirror that cannot be broken. Citizens may be swayed by rhetoric, but the collective soul of a nation knows. It senses when the leader has lied to himself, when ambition masquerades as virtue. And in time, the deception corrodes the very fabric of governance. To lead justly is to strip away illusion, not only in public, but within one's own mind. Consider how power alters perception. To ordinary men, flattery is pleasant. To rulers, it is deadly. For flattery muffles conscience, silences dissent, and creates the illusion of infallibility. But the just leader cultivates the opposite. He surrounds himself not with sycophants, but with challengers. He welcomes the critic, knowing that resistance sharpens justice. This is no easy task. It wounds pride, it delays action. Yet without such opposition,
The leader becomes intoxicated with his own voice, and a ruler drunk on himself cannot hear the cry of his people. Here the sixth law emerges. Justice breathes through accountability. A leader who is not answerable to anyone becomes a god in his own eyes and a tyrant in everyone else's. Accountability humbles the mighty, reminding them that the throne is not a pedestal, but a seat of service. In ancient republics, generals returned from war to face questioning councils. Their glory did not exempt them from scrutiny. In modern times, the same principle holds. The greater the power, the greater the duty to explain, to answer, to submit to law. Without this rhythm of accountability, justice suffocates and leadership rots into arrogance. Yet accountability is not merely external. The deepest tribunal is the leader's own conscience. Epictetus declared, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." A just leader, therefore, is willing to appear weak in the eyes of men, if it means being true before the eyes of eternity. He accepts correction not as shame, but as strength. And in doing so, he models for the people that dignity lies not in never falling, but in always rising with honesty. Now pause and reflect. What kind of leaders do we celebrate today? Do we not often cheer for charisma over character, for spectacle over substance? Do we not mistake the loudest voices for the wisest? And do we not, as citizens, share in the responsibility of elevating such figures? For leadership is never born in isolation. It is the mirror of the people's values. If citizens hunger for entertainment, they will elect performers. If they crave justice, they will elevate the just. Thus, the burden of leadership does not rest on rulers alone, but on the collective soul of the governed.
And so the hidden laws are not only a call to those who wear crowns, but to those who cast votes, to those who cheer, to those who obey. For the citizen who tolerates injustice becomes an accomplice. The citizen who demands righteousness summons forth the leader who will embody it. Power, then, is a dialogue between the ruled and the ruler, between conscience and law, between ambition and justice. The seventh hidden law, the final and perhaps the most sacred, proclaims that justice is not the property of the ruler alone. It is the shared breath of the entire society. A leader may govern wisely, but without a citizenry willing to live justly, his efforts are but seeds cast on stone. Justice must circulate like blood through the whole body politic, from the ruler's heart to the citizen's hand, from the institutions of law to the silent gestures of daily life. Plato warned that the city is but the soul written large, and if corruption festers in the individual, it will inevitably rise to infect the collective. Thus, a just leader does not merely issue decrees, he awakens justice within the people themselves. Leadership, then, becomes not the art of commanding, but of cultivating. Imagine a farmer who forces plants to grow by stretching their stems. He will destroy them. The wise farmer tends the soil, waters faithfully, protects against weeds, and allows nature to yield its harvest. So it is with rulers and their people. The demagogue coerces, the tyrant intimidates, but the just leader nurtures. He knows that fear breeds rebellion, that manipulation breeds cynicism, but that justice, when embodied consistently, breeds trust, and trust is the one currency that no treasury can mint and no army can defend once lost. Yet trust is fragile. It must be renewed through fairness, protected through transparency,
and strengthened through compassion. Justice is not cold law alone, but law infused with mercy. The Stoics understood this balance well. Marcus Aurelius wrote that a ruler must be both lion and shepherd, strong enough to defend, gentle enough to guide. Power without compassion becomes cruelty. Compassion without principle becomes weakness. The just leader walks the razor edge, holding both sword and balm, and in this balance he reflects something higher than himself. And here lies the culmination. The rebirth of leadership is not merely political, but spiritual. To lead justly is to align with the eternal order, to mirror the harmony of cosmos and soul. Such leadership transforms nations, not through fear or spectacle, but through the quiet strength of righteousness. Citizens rise when they see their ruler refuse corruption. Communities heal when they witness fairness administered without partiality. Children dream more nobly when they know justice is not a myth, but a living practice. But beware, the call of justice is not only for the few upon thrones. It whispers to every citizen who casts a vote, who speaks a word, who chooses to act or remain silent. For in tolerating injustice, the citizen becomes a tyrant's accomplice. In demanding accountability, he becomes a guardian of freedom. Thus, the hidden laws bind both ruler and ruled. Together they form the sacred covenant upon which the ideal state rests. And so the journey closes where it began, with the recognition that power is not seized, but entrusted. It is not a prize, but a burden. It is not the freedom to command, but the responsibility to serve. Justice is not an ornament for rulers, but the very breath of their legitimacy. And when these hidden laws are lived, not just spoken, they birth a leadership that endures beyond time, beyond applause, beyond death itself. For in the end, true leadership is not about control, but about alignment, not about dominance, but about harmony, not about the fleeting shadow of power, but about the eternal substance of justice. As we conclude, I ask you this candid question. As a citizen, what kind of leaders would you celebrate? As a leader, what will you be remembered for? As an aspiring leader, if the crown were placed upon your head today, what would you seek? Please share your answers with me in the comment section. Thank you for watching.